All right, guys. So great fight last night with Crawford and Spence. As you guys know, my pick was for Crawford to get a win, probably by decision, unanimous decision. But it was far more a domination than I thought it was going to be. I didn't guess that one. Now it does play into a lot of my biases with Spence and, in a sense, criticisms. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a champion and good champion, solid fighter, but he's basic. And there's a difference between basic and fundamental. I would say Crawford has more fundamentals and is also not as basic, whereas Spence is basic and his fundamentals are not quite as solid. As you saw in this fight, Crawford has better fundamental defensive maneuvers with his hands. That's something we're really big on with our Keppner boxing curriculum, is utilizing hands for defense, because the hands are the fastest thing defensively. They are faster than feet and they are faster than head movement, because the amount of movement that your hand is required to do to, let's say, catch a jab, like you saw Crawford do excellently in this fight, and you saw Spence have trouble with, the amount of movement required is very little, like you see in the fight study that I just put up with Benton. So if you hear in the post-fight interview with Crawford, you hear the recipe for why this fight turned out the way it did. And that's that Crawford and his team knew that they had to be concerned with Errol Spence's jab, because he does everything off the jab. Now, doing everything off the jab is an important thing, very important thing to do as a fighter. But I can tell you from experience, working with fighters, coaching fighters, and also my time boxing, that if you do everything off the jab, it does become predictable. So no matter how good you do that basic thing at that level, particularly, as you saw last night, it's not enough and can be overtaken. And that's where Spence is, again, a basic fighter, not necessarily just a fundamentally sound fighter, where Crawford, I believe, has a strong foundation fundamentally in his technique and is versatile, creative, has great timing, obviously. Spence's timing obviously was not that good, but let me tell you, your timing is taken away by that more powerful jab, especially if he was anticipating more of a flick so-so jab. And the thing is, watch the beautiful catching that Crawford does, and the jabbing with Spence that takes away Spence's jab. Also, Spence's glove, man, like I talked about in this fight study with George Benton, is like this a lot of times catching. Sometimes it's opened up more, but if you look at Crawford throughout this entire fight, those hands are wide open to cover more surface area, wide open for the catch. Really great technique. And also, as well, I think I wanted to speak on the mind aspect. I don't know where Spence's mind was at in this fight. Only he knows. Maybe he doesn't even know. But Crawford, if you look at his poise, his relaxation that he brings to all of his fights, but that he brings to this fight, he was so calm and focused. You can pick this up by watching him, and also his overall demeanor. That's how the guy kind of is. But I think that attributes to those type of performances, where you are relaxed, calm, but extremely focused and locked on target. And you can see that he was completely in control of his breathing, everything else, knew where he was at every moment. He was not going to let himself get phased by anything, and it was just really expert and elite level relaxation and focus by an elite level boxer. And might be, I mean, obviously is in the history books as far as his accomplishments so far, but in this modern era, but all-time great, I think, is in the making here. Now, think about this. When Spence is coming in, you know how he's going to try to do it. He's going to try to do it with a jab. And then oftentimes he's like this, he's like an ABC type fighter, where he's going to do a jab. He might do another jab, so that might be the AB, and then the C is going to throw his rear hand. For him, it's going to be his left hand. So he's going to go right, left, or he might go right, left. For a fighter the level of Crawford's, or even way below the level of Crawford's, if they are able to stay focused and not be overly concerned with the power, they will catch you just in the same fashion that Crawford caught Spence so many times last night. And then as well, the defensive fundamentals really aren't there. And it's funny, I have admittedly not made much of a study of Spence in the past, because just the fights that I've seen of his, from a fan perspective, I thought were boring in terms that there's not a lot exhibited. And of course, I look at fights from an interesting perspective. I look at it as tools that I can use to give people that I work with and give my coaches things to show different techniques and whatnot, and examples of different strategies and tactics. Whereas Spence, it's like just very, 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 again, basic and nothing special. Want to talk about basic, nothing special? Cruz last night, that was basic and nothing special. And not very impressed at all with that fight. So anyway, though, great fight last night. Great for boxing. A great fight for boxing. If you thought Spence was going to win this fight, I think you were underestimating what a truly composed elite level fighter can do, and the importance. Oh yeah, that's what I want to talk about, was the jab, in terms of with if you're a beginner or a novice or even a higher level. So I'll have people come in throughout my time coaching, and they will be big boxing enthusiasts. And so they know about the idea of kind of flicking a jab and having a subpar jab, whipping a jab out there, and it's just, flip, 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 little pop, 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 little, like the last third of a jab, extension, bring back, extension, bring back. And there's a use for that. And that's funny because just recently I was working with some of my guys on how to kind of whip their jab out, things like that. Just so they have that in their repertoire, because it's important to have that in your repertoire, because it's a way to change up the timing of the jab. It's a way to disrupt people. It's a way to control their head. It's a way to blind their eyes. It's a different delivery mechanism now. But as a foundation, you have to be able to deliver a jab like you saw Crawford do last night. If all you can do is maybe what I guess Crawford has done in the past, which is more of a flicking jab in a lot of his most recent fights, if that's all you can do and you're building your base as a boxer, whether you're just a boxing enthusiast or a competitor, you're going to run into trouble, because like Spence said against, or like Crawford said against Spence, that he knew Spence is tough, and that's not going to deter him, because you go against a good enough fighter, they're not going to care about your flicking jab in your face. And those things, that jab, that type of punch can get countered and walked through. And Errol Spence is the type of guy to do that. So you, with your practice and training, you need to work on that power jab, which to me is just a fundamentally sound jab, which is getting that step with the jab, shooting it straight from the shoulder, snapping at the end, squeezing tight at the end. And you saw the beautiful things that punch can do last night. It dropped. It was the first punch to drop Spence. But also you see the beautiful things it does with beating somebody down, man. Like just freaking like a baseball in their face over and over and over and over and over again. And it totally disrupts things. And I tell you, that was during my short time boxing, that was my best punch, that with the left hook. But stabbing that jab through someone's face, man, it's a great feeling, but it also controls somebody really well. And so I implore you to focus on that, whether you're whatever level of training, because it's hard to see, one. It's hard to stop, too, as you saw with Errol Spence, an elite level fighter, having trouble stopping it. And three, man, as you can see, at the highest level, it'll win you a fight. And that's one thing, actually, too, that I love about this fight last night, is it plays into all the things that I and we do our best to instill with our coaches and clients. And that's the fundamental foundation of the way you saw those jabs delivered, the way you saw them defended. It was not with overhead movement or extreme footwork. It was all the game of inches with the feet, the hands, and nice, sharp, accurate shots, staying cool, calm, and relaxed. All right, so great fight. If you didn't see it, definitely check it out. And I really look forward for more from Crawford. Now, if they do a rematch, again, I'm going with Crawford. I don't see much that Spence can do to right what he has wrong so far. All right? This fight really, it was almost, I mean, obviously, it ended up coming to almost be like a Tank Garcia style fight. But obviously, I'm not saying Spence is the same level as Garcia. He's a higher level, obviously. But it just is a great example how a few basic things, along with perfect execution, can disrupt a good champion, current champion. All right, guys, great fight. Watch out for more videos coming up.